with me, better make it fast. Now don't go wasting my precious time. Get your act together, we could be just fine. If you wanna be my lover, you gotta get with my friends. Make it last forever. Friendship never ends. If you wanna be my lover, you have got to give.
Please take your seats. Please welcome back to the stage, Marty Gold Cummings.
All right, I have a tiny dress on, so I would like some more applause than that little smattering. I put on my longest evening gown just for you, okay? All right, we are back. We're back, bitches, we're back. I haven't even eaten yet. Welcome back. We have not been together in such a long time, so we're gonna make this a fun event. Is everybody having a good time tonight? We're feeling good? We're feeling good? We're ready to go to the after party. I don't know where that is. My room is 12th floor, room 057, if you wanna get turned up after the gig. But remember, we want you to have a good time. So there is more wine and more bubbles. Just click the link that was texted to you upon registration. Select purchase wine and make your pick, and we'll bring it to you. And the bars are also open in the foyer. So make sure you're drinking. And can we get one more photo? I don't want this in front of me. Are you ready? Thank you. Now I'm excited. I'm really honored to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker was the first out LGBTQ person ever elected mayor of a major American city. The former mayor of Houston and now the president and CEO of LGBTQ Victory Fund. Please welcome to the stage the iconic and legendary, the one and only Mayor Anise Parker.
Okay, the quicker we bring the music down, the faster we can go. And, I think I'm shorter than anybody else that's been up here. Good evening, everyone. It is so good to see you. As was mentioned, I'm Anise Parker, President and CEO of LGBTQ Victory Fund. I'm very honored you have joined us for this milestone in our organization's history. We're about 6 months late to celebrate, but it is still a wonderful celebration. Congratulations to all of those who will be inducted into the LGBTQ Victory Hall of Fame tonight, and to the 20 out LGBTQ leaders inducted as the founding class earlier this year. I was honored to be among them. Thank you to Marty Gold, Alan Cummings for being our fabulous MC for the evening. Frankly, there weren't many drag queen candidates out there. Marty, no, that was my own version of a joke. We're happy to have you. Thank you. Thank you to our corporate sponsors. We could not do this without you. Our corporate sponsors were listed earlier, and I hope you paid attention. We truly are grateful. I want to thank the Marriott Marquis staff. We appreciate you taking care of all of us this evening. And yes, you gave them a round of applause. We appreciate that. 30 years ago, a small group of activists came together just a few miles from here because they knew there was a missing piece in our movement for equality. We had lobbying organizations, we had legal groups, we had media watchdogs, but there was no organization committed to investing in LGBTQ political leadership. LGBTQ candidates were rarely taken seriously. We were considered too controversial to win votes, too polarizing to raise money. Most of our community's resources were turned toward electing allies, a safer bet. And there's nothing wrong with allies, and we love our allies, and there are a number of allies in the room tonight. And I do want to salute them and thank them. But we needed to elect our own. And after all, at the time Victory was founded, there were only a couple of dozen out-elected officials in the entire nation, perhaps in the entire world. But on May 1st, 1991, this small group of activists signed the paperwork and Victory Fund was born. The organization would focus exclusively on electing LGBTQ candidates, actually probably lesbian and gay candidates back then, but you get the idea. Believing that LGBTQ people in positions of power would be our own best advocates, pushing equality legislation and changing hearts and minds along the way. It was really high tech back then. We used snail mail, we used faxes, answering machines. But the team got to work with what they had. That first election cycle, we endorsed two candidates. The very first candidate was Sherry Harris, running for Seattle City Council. Sherry was running against a 24-year incumbent. She's a black lesbian. Few outside of Victory Fund would have thought an out lesbian had a chance in hell of beating this incumbent. I can say that now, I'm not in office. But our founders knew this was the chance to prove the Victory model worked, to prove that our community would contribute to LGBTQ candidates outside their hometowns or states, that we would invest in LGBTQ candidates running anywhere in America, because we knew that with each victory, it would become easier for the next LGBTQ candidate to follow in their footsteps and run in their city or state. U.S. Representative Barney Frank, who is with us tonight, headlined our first fundraiser for Sherry in Dallas, and we raised the money needed for her to win. And on election day, when she won and became the first out black lesbian elected anywhere in the United States, we all got to celebrate as if she were our council member. Now, we may have only endorsed two candidates in 1991, but with each election cycle, with each victory, we began to normalize LGBTQ candidates as a concept. We kept proving LGBTQ candidates were viable, that we could win elections and make great elected officials once we were in office. Because, of course, it is not about winning the election, it's what you do with the office. The more we ran, the more we won, the more that propelled more LGBTQ people to run and to win. Now we endorse hundreds of candidates each cycle. In 2020, more than 330 LGBTQ candidates won elective office, the most ever. This year, despite it being an off-cycle election, more than 180 LGBTQ candidates won elective office. When we were founded 30 years ago, we had just a couple of dozen out candidates elected anywhere in the United States. But as you can see, 30 years can be transformative. When LGBTQ candidates take office soon, we're going to have more than 1,000 out-elected officials. That's great. Not enough. We need to double that number. We need to triple that number. In fact, we need to expand that number by about 28,000 more to achieve parity. But even so, 1,000 elected officials is true impact. It is evidence of our work. So at this point, I would like to ask, and I know there are a number of them in the room, ask Victory's founders, our founding board members, to please stand if you are able, or at least wave to us. Come on, stand up. Founders, come on. I know you're out there. There we go. In the middle here. Thank you. Yes, give them a round of applause. They did the work. That's why I'm standing up here tonight. Thank them for having the courage to create victory 30 years ago. I'm proud to say that LGBTQ political power has never been stronger, that the Victory Fund has never been stronger, and that LGBTQ leadership is on the rise in every corner of this country. But our success and growth, the reality of our politics today, can't help but cast a pall over the celebration. You know, anti-LGBTQ politicking is far from dead. In this past November, anti-equality candidates and issues won at the ballot box. A lot of it comes from the right, but some of it comes from the left, and we need to recognize that, and we need to fight back from whatever direction it comes. Many of us are looking to 2022 and are concerned about further losses for pro-equality candidates. And we face the prospect of a U.S. Congress with a majority opposed to basic LGBTQ rights legislation and opposed to something as fundamental as the Equality Act. There's no denying the next cycle will be tough. Yet while our nation's politics is a pendulum, the upward trajectory of our movement for political power is clear and unequivocal. LGBTQ candidates can buck the political winds of the moment. They can transcend partisanship and continue to play an outsized role in our nation's politics. But that means we need candidates from across the political spectrum and in every corner of this country. You know, nobody exemplifies the ability to work with everyone better than U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin. Tammy Baldwin has won 2 statewide elections in the tough state of Wisconsin. Senator Baldwin attributes her success in part to voters gravitating toward her honesty and authenticity. She says being an out candidate is, in many ways, an asset, an advantage that allows voters to see her as human, not just as a politician, not as a Democrat, but as a human being who understands their lives. With the right strategy, LGBTQ candidates do have an advantage. And next year, they can determine majorities on school boards, in state legislatures, and even in the U.S. Congress. We look at our 2022 candidates and see opportunity, bright spots in a potentially difficult year. And as an aside, Victory's strength is in those down ballot races because there is no other national organization that plays in those races. And we may think of them as the pipeline or the feeder system for those higher profile races, but I guarantee you a school board member, a city council member has more direct impact on the lives of their constituents than anybody in the United States Congress. Due respect to our members of Congress who are here today. Remember that. We have a particular need to elect outstanding judges from our community and move them up the political pipeline. So today we celebrate our past and all we've achieved together, but as we look forward, know our community always perseveres despite the challenges. We still have many lavender ceilings to shatter, barriers to break, each of which will motivate a new generation of LGBTQ people to run. We don't run to make history for history's sake. We run because LGBTQ elected officials change the hearts and minds of their constituents and their colleagues, because they do great work on difficult legislation, because they transform debates, they secure inclusive legislation, and most importantly, we act as role models, all the while representing the interests of our constituents. That's how we achieve and sustain equality for our community. And that's what you're doing by joining us here today. I'm honored to be serving as Victory Fund's president and CEO on this 30th anniversary. I'm grateful the fact that we still have folks committed to us for the entire 30 years who are with us tonight. I'm grateful that you support our work. I'm grateful that you believe in the power of the candidates we elect. I'm confident that in another 30 years, a new generation of LGBTQ leaders will stand here and remember the legacy you helped create. So, and speaking of legacies, that legacy can start making his way to the stage. I first met Congressman Frank. He was still in the closet when I met Congressman Frank, a longtime friend of Victory Fund, someone who has been with us since the very beginning. He was the headliner of our first fundraiser, held for Sherry Harris 30 years ago. The irascible, the irreverent, the irrepressible, the dangerous with a microphone. Give me a moment. The one, the only, U.S. Representative Barney Frank.
Thank you, Anise. Thank you. I have been in retirement, and in retirement, people get a chance to tend to their bucket list. But I want to explain to you that my being here tonight is a sign that my commitment to this organization's mission remains very strong, because in addition to a bucket list, I find now that I'm no longer accountable to constituents or colleagues or the media, I can have another list. It rhymes with bucket. It applies to a whole lot of things I no longer have to do unless I want to. Political dinners are very much in that category, with some exceptions. And my being here tonight is a sign of how strongly I feel about the Victory Fund, because it is one of those exceptions. I feel especially supportive of the Victory Fund because it has taken a stance that has been controversial, believing in the efficacy of the political process. That's not always been fashionable. It's derided as a kind of weak tea approach. Now, there's a place in our politics for various forms of activism. But I will say that in my experience, no demonstration has ever elected a public official. It is participation in the political process that is very important. And we are seeing the results of that here. Anise correctly said, people at all levels make a real difference. And let me say, it is not just being supportive. Allies are important. And I spend a lot of my time with allies. We're a minority. Without allies, we don't win. But there is, and I will tell you this in the legislative context, and my fellow members of the House, Senate, and state legislatures know this. Legislating is a very personal business. Frankly, to some extent, being in a legislative body is as close as most adults will come to being back in high school. The personal relationships are important. It is important to be good at your job, but not to appear as if you were good at your job. Seriousness has to be kept somewhat under wraps. Being an out gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender member adds to your leverage in dealing with our issues. There have been times in my career when the Democratic leadership has been supportive of a controversial effort on our behalf, and they've asked me to go up front on the grounds that other legislators will be less angry at me, given that it's personal. I'm particularly talking about times when you force legislators to do something that we all hate, and that is vote on a controversial subject. And I would be the one who would do that because they said, well, they'll understand why you have to do it. So they're being openly gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender officials is an additional factor on our behalf. I also am very proud, if you look over the period, that we who were out, I know this is true in the House and the Senate, and I believe it is true in other bodies as well, we satisfy the moral imperative of the Rabbi Hillel, his famous saying, "If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I?" We have been, those of us who are out, our own best advocates, but we have also been advocates of others. There is clearly something about being in a minority and being mistreated because some essential element of your personality that makes you sympathetic to others. I think it is especially important to remind people that if you look at the openly gay and lesbian members of Congress and the members of the Congressional Black Caucus, you see two groups that have been very, very much in concert and mutually supportive. And I think that is something of which we can be proud. In fact, when I last checked, the Congressional Black Caucus had a better voting record in our support than the gay and lesbian members. Now, not that the openly gay and lesbian members, but there have always been a couple of closeted Republicans who drive our average down. And that's my last point I want to talk about, and that's partisanship. I wish that LGBTQ issues were not partisan. They have become partisan, but we didn't make them partisan. Sadly, the Republican Party has moved strongly in opposition to us. That does not mean that we should adopt a reflexive partisanship, but neither should we overlook that central fact. Of all the issues in America today, one of the most sharply divided along party lines is our rights. And which party controls, and this is a factor when you talk about candidates. It's not just individual candidates that count, it's party control. So as I said, I wish that weren't the case, but as long as it is, it would be a great mistake to ignore it. Finally, I want to thank Anise and the others for inviting me. I got to meet a lot of old friends and some new people that I encourage. I got to say, and I'm in the minority in this, I'm willing to say it, and I am glad you're here to be supportive. I know you will hear candidates talk about how much they love campaigning. In my judgment, when you hear that, you are listening to either a liar or a sociopath. If you look at the activities that constitute campaigning, not only are none of them enjoyable, but no rational human being engages in them unless she's a candidate for public office. If shaking hands and walking around the tables at a dinner, if all that is making cold phone calls, asking for money, if all that was so much damn fun, how come nobody does it unless they have to? So, by the way, that's one of the lies. The other lie that people tell, not directly relevant to the Victory Fund, but just for informational purposes, when someone says to you, oh, we ran against each other, but we're still good friends, bullshit. So for helping the candidates, for the great work we've done together in helping to improve American society by our fight against bigotry of all sorts, thank you.
Please welcome to the stage California Senate President Pro Tem Tony Atkins.
Well, good evening, Victory family. Oh, come on. Good evening, Victory family. Jennifer and I are so thrilled to be here tonight. You know, in the before times, we didn't have nearly 1,000 LGBTQ officials, but we did have Jose Serra, founder of the Imperial Court system, and the first member of our community to run for office. And we had legendary early pioneers like Kathy Krizachenko, Elaine Noble, and Harvey Milk. Thanks to these leaders and the others enshrined in the Victory Hall of Fame, and thanks to Victory Fund and their unceasing work to find good candidates, to train them, help them win, we do have 1,000 LGBTQ leaders and every expectation of crossing another milestone next year. If we're to ensure that the gains of our community has worked and fought for and died for, we need even more leaders like those legends honored in the Hall of Fame, including the person it is my joy and my privilege to introduce, my dear friend, my mentor, Christine Kehoe. In the before times, I didn't have a Chris Kehoe. I'd come to San Diego to help my sister with her new baby. I was running clinic services at a women's reproductive health clinic, and as I continued getting active in the community, I saw Christine Kehoe. She was running for the San Diego City Council, and I knew from the start I wanted to be part of that campaign. Not only was there the historic nature of her campaign, the opportunity to be the first LGBTQ elected official in San Diego, there was the fact that this was a candidate overflowing with good ideas and with the temperament and the tenacity to turn good ideas into solid laws. I had no idea when I was knocking on doors for Christine how many doors were actually going to open. After the City Council, Chris went on to the Assembly, where she served as Speaker Pro Tem, was a founding member of the California LGBTQ Caucus, And after moving on to the state Senate, Chris served as chair of the very powerful Appropriations Committee. After leaving office due to term limits, Chris focused her love of transportation issues and the environment and became a leading voice to get more electric cars off the engineer's drawing board and into people's driveways. An early and strong leader drawing the connection between improving transportation and fighting climate change. Another measure of Chris's influence, I believe, is the fact that her city council seat is still in LGBTQ hands. Her assembly seat is still in LGBTQ hands. And her Senate seat is, well, in these LGBTQ hands. I cannot tell you what a true blessing it has been to have Chris Kehoe's number in my contacts as I've served as the Speaker of the Assembly, as the President Pro Tem of the California Senate, her counsel on the challenges that California has faced, including the pandemic, the Great Recession, housing affordability, and income inequality has been enormously valuable to me. Now, one of the things I learned from Christine when I went to work for her on the City Council is that what you do about potholes is more important than what you say behind a podium. I hold on to that in two ways. A reminder whenever possible to focus on the details, and also a reminder when I am behind a podium to stop talking. So with that, it is my pleasure to congratulate all of tonight's inductees, to thank all of those leaders who are in Victory Fund's Hall of Fame, and to introduce this presentation from the Honorable, the amazing Christine Kehoe.
Thank you, Senator Atkins. I am deeply honored to be inducted into the Victory Fund Hall of Fame. Victory has been there for me since my very first history-making win in 1993. And Victory has been there for many openly LGBTQ elected officials ever since. Recently, Victory passed the milestone of electing 1,000 LGBTQ electeds to public office across the country. That's progress to be proud of. Let me thank my close friend and strong ally for almost 30 years, California Senator Toni Atkins, the President pro tempore of our state Senate. I treasure her friendship and hold her leadership in the highest regard. To my wonderful spouse, Julie Warren, who has been by my side through thick and thin for 35 years. Your love and affection are the gifts that have guided me. To my friends and family for a lifetime of support and love. You are my strength and my compass. I thank you for your kindness and patience. To my San Diego constituents who elected and re-elected me to city and state offices for 19 years, I am endlessly grateful for your confidence in me. A special thank you to LGBTQ San Diegans, whose yearning for inclusion and full equality were the foundation and the engine of all my campaigns. Those San Diego constituents who have continued supporting our community for an unbroken record of over 25 years of LGBTQ representation. And thank you to LGBTQ Americans all across the country who were introduced to me by Victory and who gave me critical support when I needed it. To the many LGBTQ public officials who've led the way, some of whom have already been inducted into the Victory Fund Hall of Fame, thank you for your pioneering work. I single out Congressman Barney Frank, who opened our program today, as one of those stellar leaders. I can honestly say to each of the individuals and communities that I have just mentioned that I could not have done it without you. There are many ways to serve our communities, our states, and our country. I'm grateful that you allowed me the honor of holding public office, which I have loved. My deepest thanks to all.
Please welcome Deputy Director of the Global Equality Caucus, Aaron Lefebvre.
Thank you so much. We are all here today as we stand on the shoulders of the giants and their hard-earned wins advancing the rights of our community. Nevertheless, in a world that is becoming increasingly divisive, we also need to invest in those who carry the baton fiercely in the face of new hostility. Today we honor those that fought for our rights, but for a fair and more sustainable world for all. But this cannot be achieved if we leave LGBTIQ people behind. To reach the UN sustainability goals, we have less than 10 years to bring this into reality and fight to include our community. Together with your visibility, support, and action, we can build a shared legacy for the future, for a world where there is no country where we are illegal and face prosecution for just who we are or who we love. And where the torturous practice of the so-called conversion therapies is banned everywhere, without any exceptions, a place where we can all exist and love freely, and where we can say, it is safe to be me. Our work and fight for this world begins today, as the present is our tomorrow's legacy. And this leads me to the honor, which is introducing the Irish An Tanáiste Leo Varadkar, who today will be inducted into the LGBTQ Victory Fund Hall of Fame. Mr. Varadkar was not only the first Irish gay head of government, but also the fourth in the world, and actively campaigned for marriage equality in Ireland during his mandate as Minister of Health. I want to congratulate Mr. Varadkar, and we now have his video acceptance remarks.
I want to thank the Victory Institute for this enormous honour. I'm really sorry I can't be in Washington, D.C. to be with you in person, but the pressures of work and the pandemic and the travel restrictions just made that very difficult this year. But I would love to attend in person next year if you'll have me, and hopefully things will be a little bit more normal by then. As you know, I was the first openly gay member of the Irish government, our cabinet, becoming Minister for Transport back in 2011, and the first Prime Minister of Ireland, our Taoiseach, to be openly gay. I became Taoiseach back in 2017, and also the first person of colour. I don't think that in any way changed Ireland. It was more a reflection of the fact that the country had changed so much in the preceding years. In many ways, the most important thing was that it really wasn't such a big issue, not for my party and not for the people. And indeed, in many ways, it was a bigger story overseas in the international media than it was back home. I think in some ways that was the best thing. I am part of that generation of politicians who had to come out publicly. Did so while I was a member of the cabinet. I'll never forget doing that interview on the radio where I had to tell everyone in Ireland my personal story. It was very difficult, was worried how people might react, thought people might treat me differently or it might change things. But it didn't. And of course, a lot of those worries, as is often the case, were more my own than they were others. I've still yet to listen back to that radio interview, but I'm sure I'll do it sometime. But I do believe that I'm probably the last generation of Irish politicians that has to come out in the traditional sense. In the most recently elected parliament, there are a number of members who are LGBT, and it's just not been an issue that they've ever really had to discuss. The Ireland I was born into back in 1979 was a very different place. It wasn't possible to get divorced. Contraception was very hard to get your hands on, particularly if you were unmarried. It was illegal to be homosexual. There were no transgender rights. But that changed and changed over time for lots of different reasons. Our membership of the European Union, our economic growth, the fact that people emigrated and came back from places like the United States, and also, I think, a change in power of the Catholic Church in Irish society. The referendum on marriage equality really was a seminal moment for us. We didn't particularly want to have a referendum at the start, but it's not possible to change our constitution in Ireland without putting it to a vote of the people. And our constitution defined marriage in a traditional sense as being between that of a man and a woman. We thought it'd be a very divisive referendum campaign, but it actually wasn't. It was a wonderful time in politics and a wonderful moment where people came out to their families and friends, knocked on the doors of their neighbours, and asked for the right to marry. We got a really big yes vote across the country, and crucially it carried not just in the cities, but in the rural areas as well, in all but one of our 26 counties. And that was really significant because it said to us that we weren't a divided society. We didn't have red counties and blue counties as much as rainbow counties. And that really helped to spur Ireland on. Within a few weeks, we brought in legislation to recognise transgender people, moving away from the medical model to one of self-declaration. And also we made some big progress on sexual health, for example, making rapid testing for HIV readily available, introducing a free PrEP programme and also, for example, making the HPV vaccine available to boys, which I think is really important in terms of reducing cancers in the years ahead. Of course, there's always more to do. We know that homophobic bullying is still a big issue in our society, and particularly in schools. We know that in sport, for example, still not that many sportsmen in particular, and also sportswomen, feel comfortable coming out in that milieu, and that needs to change too. And we see across Europe, and unfortunately across the world, LGBT people not having rights, or in some countries rights being rolled back. And it's really important that we advocate against that and work against that. Finally, just want to offer my thanks and appreciation to the Victory Institute for all the work that you've done down the years, and also to American people in general. In many ways, the liberation movement for LGBT people started in the United States, in Stonewall, when people fought back for the first time. And America, despite its faults, is a great country and is still an inspiration to all of us who believe in liberty and freedom. So thank you very much for this unique honour, and really hope I can see you in person next year.
Please welcome Oregon State House Speaker and Victory Fund endorsed candidate for Oregon Governor, Tina Kotek.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I so wish my wife Amy could be here tonight because this is an amazingly beautiful crowd. Thank you all for being here tonight. It truly is my honor to introduce our next speaker, my governor, Kate Brown. I got to know Governor Brown when I was a first-time candidate for the legislature. She was a role model, a supporter, and a mentor. In 2007, in my first term as state representative in the Oregon House, she was the Senate Majority Leader, the first female Senate Majority Leader in Oregon. We worked together on historic legislation to ban discrimination based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression, and to establish basic legal protections for same-sex couples. This was just a few years after voters had approved a ban on marriage for LGBTQ couples, and the far right was mobilized and ready for the fight in Oregon. But we were ready too. We knew that we couldn't let the defeat at the ballot stop us or hold us back. We had to press on. Kate pushed in the Senate, and I worked the bills with my colleagues in the House. You know, it's never easy to pressure colleagues on a controversial issue, as Congressman Frank was telling us, and it's even harder when that issue is so deeply personal. But that's what stuck with me about Governor Brown. Her determination to get things done, her limitless optimism, her dedication to standing up for what's right, and her ability to communicate about political issues in a deeply personal way. Oregon has come a long way over the past 15 years. America has too. When I took office as the first out lesbian speaker of the State House, Kate Brown was the first out bisexual person elected as Secretary of State. Soon, she became our governor, breaking down yet another barrier for the LGBTQ community. And I hope to follow in her footsteps, becoming the first out lesbian governor in the country next year. Because I know Governor Brown and I believe that an LGBTQ woman should follow an LGBTQ woman at the most important office in the state of Oregon. Many of us in this room have spent our lives breaking down barriers. Maybe you're the first family member to say, "Dad, I'm gay," or the first person at the office to come out as trans, or the first woman to bring your wife with you to church. Governor Kate Brown has broken a lot of barriers over the course of her career. As an advocate for children, a lawyer, a legislator, a secretary of state, and now governor. And each barrier she broke made it a little easier for all of us. And for that, we all owe her a debt of gratitude. And before I bring the governor up, I want to go off script just for a second and say, being a governor in a pandemic is one of the hardest things anybody has to do in elected office right now. My governor, Kate Brown, has been decisive and has kept Oregonians safe in this pandemic. And I just want everyone to know in this room that she has done everything she can and has made good decisions for our people. And that is something that we should all be proud in this country for the strength of her as a governor in the state of Oregon. So it's my honor tonight to be here as Governor Kate Brown gets inducted into the Victory Fund Hall of Fame. So please join me with a warm welcome for Oregon Governor Kate Brown.
Thank you, Speaker Kotek. I'm incredibly grateful for your leadership and wish you the best in your upcoming gubernatorial campaign. Can we please give her a round of applause? Speaker Tina Kotek. Thank you so much to Victory Fund. I'm incredibly honored and humbled by this award, and so honored to be sharing the stage with folks like Congressman Barney Frank. Give him another round of applause, too. And President Pro Tem California Senate, Tony Adkins. Thank you, Tony. But you all need to know, I would not be standing here today as the nation's first elected LGBTQ governor if it weren't for the Victory Fund. I ran for office because I wanted to be a voice for the voiceless and continue the fight for justice and equality. And after 16 years in the Oregon legislature, I made a decision to run for Secretary of State in 2007. In Oregon, the Secretary of State is also the Lieutenant Governor. As the Senate Majority Leader, I was a bit surprised to learn that 3 of my colleagues in the state Senate shared my ambition. So I sought help from national organizations, but it was the Victory Fund that made the difference. Chuck Wolf was president and CEO at the time. He made the case to the Victory Fund board that if Victory Fund invested in me, at some point, my governor could resign and I would become the first LGBTQ governor in the country. Well, you did. You invested significantly in my campaign for Secretary of State, and you were the major reason I won that Democratic primary. And literally, 8 years later, Chuck's prediction came true. On February 13th, 2015, my predecessor submitted his letter of resignation. 5 days later, I was sworn in as Oregon's 38th governor. And as the Victory Fund had invested in me, I was able to return that investment for the people of Oregon. Thanks to all of your support, we have been able to continue Oregon's legacy of being a champion of progressive public policy and a leader throughout the country in our efforts to secure equality for all members of our community. From our work to ensure trans students are safe in our schools, to providing Oregon health plan coverage for gender dysphoria, to banning conversion therapy, we have shown the rest of the country how it ought to be done. And you all at Victory Fund understood well before other organizations that investments in our states means investing in the laboratories of democracy, where progressive ideas are piloted, spread to other states, and ultimately across the country. And with Congress deadlocked and some states actively trying to turn back the clock on democracy and civil rights, states like Oregon have become the bulwark of our very democracy. We are fighting to ensure that America remains an inclusive and welcoming place to everyone, regardless of their sexual orientation, gender identity, color of their skin, or where they came from. We don't do this work because it's easy. We do this work because we believe with every fiber of our being that by working together, we can create a safer, stronger, and more just and equitable world. Thank you so much, Victory Fund. I love you all.
Please welcome to the stage Kansas State Representative Stephanie Byers.
Chokma, Chinchokma, Sachochifot, Stephanie Byers, Chikisha Seya. Hello, how are you? My name is Stephanie Byers. My pronouns are she and her. I'm the representative for the 86th District of the Kansas House of Representatives. I am Chickasaw and the first Native American transgender person ever elected to state office in the United States. Thank you. I am so excited to help honor a woman I have the deepest respect for, Minneapolis City Council Vice President Andrea Jenkins. In 2017, Andrea made history, becoming the first out Black trans woman ever elected in the United States, a truly game-changing moment. Her election inspired a wave of trans people to run in the years that followed, including me. But it was not her history-making election that made the greatest impact. It has been her time in office as an elected leader. Andrea represents and lives just blocks away from the corner where George Floyd was murdered in May of last year. As our nation mourned and protesters demanded an end to white supremacy and police violence, Andrea became a national voice for that change. She sang Amazing Grace at a national press conference. She appeared on dozens of national and local news programs, demanded racism be treated as a national public health emergency, and most importantly, she helped her community as it grieved. Minneapolis didn't elect a Black trans woman to make history. They elected her for a moment just like this. Right now, there are just 42 out trans elected officials in the entire United States, and just 7 are people of color, only 3 are Black. Andrea is a true trailblazer, a courageous leader, and a moral conscience for her district, our movement, and our nation. You have earned this induction into the LGBTQ Hall of Fame. Andrea, I am so thrilled to be the one to welcome you to it. Friends, give a round of applause for Minneapolis City Council Vice President, Andrea Jenkins.
Where's Marty at? Where's Marty at? Hey, Marty. She's wearing my dress, y'all. Who wore it better? Me or her? Hello, 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 Victory Fund. Hello, elected officials, esteemed appointed officials. Hello to all of you on the front lines, fighting for dignity, fighting for justice, fighting for equity and equality. My name is Andrea Jenkins, and I am the Vice President of the Minneapolis City Council. But before I start, because I like to always give context to whenever I'm talking to a group or to a crowd, and usually not quite this big, but I'm so honored to be here. But I do want to make a land acknowledgement, because wherever we are in this country, and certainly here in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, we are on the unceded ancestral lands of the Anacostans. Stolen land in a nation built on the backs of enslaved Africans. Stolen labor. It's important that we always have that context. I don't know, sometimes some people try to call it critical race theory, but I don't know, y'all can call it whatever you want to. But it's the story of this country. It's the story of America. My goodness. Honestly, I can't believe that I'm standing here in front of all of you tonight to receive this tremendous honor. Wow. Congratulations to Victory Fund, 30 years, that's incredible. Another round of applause for Victory Fund. The first time I ever heard of Victory Fund was in 2003. I was working as a policy aide to a former Minneapolis City Council Vice President, Robert Lilligren. He was a Bonet Fellow. He participated in the Harvard Kennedy School of Government program, and I remember thinking, damn, that's pretty cool. But I'll never experience that because you'd have to be an elected official to do that, right? And I had absolutely no plans to be an elected official. After all, who would vote for a black, trans-identified woman. And I knew the stress of elected life, Barney. I was an aide to 2 different council members, so I knew the life, right? And I really enjoyed supporting from the background. But as the years went on, and I ended up working for a different Minneapolis City Council vice president, and after 3 terms, she decided to step down and pursue other interests and spend time with her young, growing family. And I'm sure all of you guys know how rare an open seat is in government, right? You gotta be ready when the opportunity presents itself. And that was 2016, the same year that America elected an orange reality TV con man to be the President of the United States. And on that day, I knew that democracy would be under total attack. And unfortunately, I was right. But fortunately, Victory Fund was there. And I was accepted into the Victory Institute Fellows Program. I went to the training down in Dallas with Danica Rome. There I met Mayor. Yeah, Danica, give it up for Danica. There I met Mayor Anise Parker and other LGBTQIA+ electeds and appointed who wanted us to join their ranks. And they were all willing to give us the tools to make that happen. I subsequently attended in that same year where I met the first Black LGBTQIA+ identified electeds like Colorado State Representative Leslie Herod, Georgia State Representative Park Cannon. Where you at, Park? Show my girl Park some love, standing up for democracy in America. They trying to kill democracy in Georgia, y'all. That's why we gotta elect Stacey Abrams as the governor. We need all of y'all to do that. I also want to give a shout out because I met this powerful city council member, Luana Mayfield, so many others, and they showed me and they told me, you can do this too. And we did. Marty, we won that first election by 76%. Stephanie told y'all about what happened in my neighborhood, right? How many people have seen Cup Foods, that red sign above where George Floyd was struggling, saying, "I can't breathe"? That's the convenience store that I go to. That's blocks from my house. And then just November 2nd, those same constituents told me to go back to City Hall with 86% of the vote this time. So this last term was amazing. I got voted to be the council president by my colleagues, stepped right into the leadership of the council. We banned conversion therapy in my first year, prompting other communities and other parts of town around me to do the same. We funded the Fast Track for PrEP program. to help end AIDS. We hired the first full-time transgender coordinator at the city of Minneapolis. Full-time benefits to administer the Transgender Equity Summit, which I founded 8 years ago and is still going amazingly strong. We've done so many progressive things in this term, and I'm just so thrilled to be able to go back and do that again. And it's just been an amazing journey. And to be on this road with all of you to seek out equity and equality for everyone. And so my point is, representation matters. In fact, it is, as it is stated on a beautiful t-shirt that I received in the mail from the Victory Fund, representation is power. It's folks like Harvey Milk, Barney Frank, the Honorable Senator Tammy Baldwin, like my former boss, Robert Lilligren, a Native American gay man that inspired me. And I hope that my modest achievements inspire others. Thank you, Victory Fund, and all of your supporters, again, for this tremendous honor. I am deeply, deeply grateful, and I pray that I continue to live up to the trust and the encouragement that all of you have placed into me. Lastly, let me acknowledge the 49 trans lives that have been stolen thus far in 2021. Those are the numbers that we know of, because we know that so many folks are frequently misgendered and misidentified, so there are likely many, many more. Further, many of these victims are women of color. They are why I do this work. I know, yes. I know that I stand on the shoulders of Black and brown trans women who have paved the path for me to be on this stage tonight. And to them, I am grateful. To my family, chosen and biological, I am grateful. To my partners who love me unconditionally, baby, I am grateful. I encourage you. No, I implore you all to lead with love and integrity. Have a great night. Thank you once again. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Please welcome back to the stage, Marty Gold Cummings.
First of all, give a round of applause to all of our speakers and honorees tonight. I just want to say, before we go into the next little script thing, I know it's been a long night, but I'm going to tell a little story really quick. The great Andrea Jenkins has been such an incredible friend and mentor as I ran my campaign, and I'm so grateful to them. And I just want to shout out the Victory Fund and to all the people who are currently running for office that stood up earlier. You'll never hear the stories of what the kitchen table conversation is after you meet people. And I just want to extend my thanks to Victory for their endorsement of our campaign. At the end of our campaign on Election Day, my mom was out there in the rain talking to voters. And this woman came up to my mom and said, "Oh, are you with Marty Cummings' campaign?" And she said, "Yes, I'm their mother." And the woman said, "Oh, I'm so happy to meet you because we met Marty on the street 2 weeks ago, and Marty was talking about their platform and their policy and how they're a non-binary candidate." And this mom said that night at the dinner table, their 10-year-old child came out to them as non-binary because for the first time, they met somebody like them. So every candidate here, your voice is changing conversations at the dinner table that will have lasting generational impact. So if you don't win your election, there are wins within your campaign, and keep moving forward and doing the work in your community. Now, we are at the end of our program. It has not been long at all. But I'm truly honored to introduce somebody who is an inspiration and someone who is one of the reasons I ran for office. Our next guest is Virginia Delegate Danica Rome. Danica first ran for office in 2017 against a 25-year incumbent. And this person, the incumbent, proudly called himself the chief homophobe of the Virginia State Legislature. Yeah, boo to him. Jerk. Boo. But Danica destroyed him at the ballot box, annihilated his hateful ass, becoming the first out trans person to win and serve in the Virginia State House, and a trailblazer for the many trans legislative candidates who have followed. She is just off her second re-election victory this past November. This past November, she defeated another anti-LGBTQ opponent. She is just knocking those bigots off one by one. I love you. Pooh. It's because she's in a punk rock band. That's why she knows how to do it. She has done amazing work in advancing and passing LGBTQ equality bills throughout her time in office. Please welcome to the stage the one and only Virginia Delegate Danica Rome.
What's up, DC? Come on, all y'all who have ever been to champagne brunches know how I roll. I said, what's up, Victory Fund? Thank you so much to Marty. Thank you so much to Anise Parker. Thank you so much to all y'all for coming out here today. My name is Danica Rome, and I am grateful to serve the people of the 13th District of the Virginia House of Delegates, which includes the city of Manassas Park and the western Prince William County portions of Haymarket, Gainesville, and my lifelong home of Manassas as the first out-and-seated trans-state legislator in American history. But here's the cool thing, y'all. Being the first in 2017, being the first to be sworn in January 10th, 2018, that was cool. That was cool, but it was a little lonely. And then you know what happened after that? Some other people said, hey, if Danica can do it, so can I. Brianna Tatone in Colorado drops me a line one day. That, right after that election, says, hey, what do I have to do in order to win? If you can do this, I want to do this too. And I said, well, have you gone through the Victory Institute's candidate campaign training program? All right, sign me up. Have you gone through Emerge Colorado's? Sign me up. So she did both of those training programs. She ran, and she flipped a seat red to blue, y'all. But it wasn't just her either. Jerry Cannon and Lisa Bungner ran up in New Hampshire, and they won. And so we went from 0 to 1 to 4 out and seated trans state legislators in 1 year. And then I got reelected in 2019 the first time. That was it. Then 2020, we added another 4, including Stephanie Byers, including our third out and seated trans state legislator in New Hampshire alone, because like half the state serves in New Hampshire. Taylor Small won up in Vermont. That was awesome. And my dear friend, and Charlotte Clymer's dear friend, Sarah McBride, became a history maker in her own right as the first out and seated trans state senator in American history. Super, super proud of her. And we have seen what has happened when you have someone who is like you, who shares your experience at the table making decisions because we chose to be vulnerable enough to be visible in the first place. It was people like Mayor Anise Parker who put their courage on the front line years ago that made it possible for people where I am today to be in office. All y'all who are part of that 30th, that first one of these, we are a product of your investment from back then. That's the importance of the Victory Institute. It's the importance of the Victory Fund. And when Andrea Jenkins and I, when we trained together, is November 16th to 20th, 2016 at the Hilton Anatole in Dallas, Texas. Still remember well, very well and good. Back then, I don't know, Andrea, did you think that you and I were going to be the breakout stars of that training class? We are very, very different people in terms of our personality. Andrea gets up, and her and I, we did a speech at the Champagne Brunch in 2017. I think it was that April. And Andrea comes up, and she's the poet. She's the artist. And she lays it down, and all y'all who were here in D.C. that day, you were just like, wow, she's breathtaking. And I come up next, I'm like, what's up, y'all? That's the thing, though. Trans people are not a monolith. We represent America just as much as everyone else. And the beautiful thing about the Victory Fund is that they're willing to take a chance on us, and they're willing to let us be us without precondition, as long as it is that we are pro-choice and support LGBTQ people. Go run, go win, go serve. It doesn't matter whether it's that mosquito control board in Key West or if you're running for federal office. Go run, go be yourself, because when you run, when you are being your authentic sense of self, you are creating that very sense of representation, of making sure that representation is shown and that other people can see it, they can achieve it, and they can say, if Danica can do it, so can I. If Andrea can do it, so can I. If Mayor Parker can do it, if Governor Brown can do it, if Congresswoman Sharice Davids can do it, so can I. In my first race, Victory was with me from my primary all the way on. And let me just tell you a quick story with that. When we had the primary itself, I had been outspent by 2 of the other Democratic candidates in that primary by tens of thousands of dollars each. I'd been outmailed 2 to 1, and there was another candidate on top of that, but we were never out-hustled. And Victory turned their entire campaign office, or their entire office in D.C., into our phone banking operation that day, getting out every single person who we had identified at the doors. Then they sent a caravan of people out to continue knocking on doors for us, to staff the polls and do everything else. And we won that primary by 11.5 points. And that set up the main event in 2017. And well, just to correct one thing from Marty, by the way, my predecessor was in office for 26 years, not 25 years, was elected 13 times from the time I was 7 years old. And when a reporter, actually 2 reporters asked me, like, well, if he's doing such a bad job, well, Dan, just why is he still in office? I go, because he hasn't run against me yet. And in my 2 terms, and I was just elected to a 3rd term, by the way, so that's awesome. Thank you all. My 2 terms in office, the governor's now signed 23 of my bills into law, which is as many as my predecessor's last 5 terms combined. And among those bills, I'm really proud that we've passed 8 of my bills to feed hungry kids, by the way. That's a huge thing that I love. As a member of the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, I got to cast a vote that's actually helping fix Route 28, finally, God damn it. And at the same time, we've passed 3 of my bills for LGBTQ equality among the 24 LGBTQ equality bills that we've passed since last year. And among my bills that we passed this year, one of them in particular I want to mention to you is the one that we passed to ban the LGBTQ panic defense in Virginia, to make us the 12th state to do that. And by the way, it's awesome that Oregon immediately filed suit, by the way, so kudos to y'all too. But when we did that, and the governor signed that bill in March, 2 months later, there was a brutal homicide of an out person in Southwest Virginia. And the defense attorney there, said to the press that it's like, well, no one should be murdered, but deceiving someone, deception is terrible, and we shouldn't be putting up with anyone being like that, and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what, friends? He ain't gonna be able to put that into court because our law went into effect July 1, which is before the trial began in the first place in the fall. You know what that means? You can't get away with murdering and assaulting us for simply existing. That's now the code of Virginia. We passed my bills to allow localities to include LGBTQ protections at the local level. We passed my bill to ban discrimination against trans people on health insurance and health care. And we even passed my resolution to mark November 20th of every year as Transgender Day of Remembrance in Virginia. Who ever saw that the former capital of the Confederacy would actually recognize Tidor? We're changing. Now look, this past election wasn't friendly to us. It wasn't friendly. But I'm still here. My friend Dawn Adams is still there. Adam Evan, Mark Stickle's coming back too. We're still there. Thanks, Doug. And I want you to know that as long as we're there and we continue being vulnerable enough to be visible, the Victory Fund will have our back. Every single door we knock, phone call we make, event we attend, and every ballot that is cast, the Victory Fund will stand behind us. Now, got a question for y'all. Y'all got to see these envelopes right in front of you? I want you to pick one up like this. You don't have to put anything in it yet. Pick one up. Now, I want you to just give a nice little love tap to the person to your left with it. And then do it to the person to your right. And this time, as you're doing it, I want you to go, hey, bitch, go donate. And then I want you to go on this side and be just like, hey, my dear, you're so cute tonight. Go donate. You can either donate to the Victory Fund through this nice little happy envelope that Mayor Parker is waving in front of my face, as much as everyone else, including Representative Herod. Or you can do it at the link that you were sent, that you got in your little text message today. I got one too. And remember, when you support the Victory Fund, and I know you do because you're here tonight, and it's a fundraising dinner, y'all, so you might as well keep throwing it down. If you have to drink a little bit more of that red wine in order to do it, have fun. You're at a hotel. It's not like you don't have a place to stay. Then go do it. Because when you do it, what do they do? What does the Victory Fund do? They make it possible for candidates like me to run for office, to win office, and to achieve the public policy needs that affect our constituents and all the people in this room and all the people we care and love so dearly. That's possible because of the Victory Fund. So raise that envelope one more time if you're going to donate tonight, if you're going to help out the Victory Fund, if you are going to keep LGBTQ elected officials in office. Wave it one more time for me. All right, I'm seeing it. I'm holding y'all to it. Now, speaking of good stuff that come when we have elected LGBTQ officials in office, it just wouldn't be a Victory Fun event if the Victory's favorite Grizzly Bear wasn't here tonight and ready to speak, along with another cohort as well. So I would like y'all to welcome my friend, Pennsylvania Representative Brian Sims and California Assemblyman Evan Lowe. It's bear season, y'all. Come on up. Let's say some let's have some fun.
Is this Did you just introduce me for bear season? I just got an ow from Leslie Herod. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I understand that Evan and I are standing between all of you and the end of the night. I guess between many of you and trade. But we're going to just take a moment to wrap up with the most important part of this night. And I can wait. I think a lot of us have. I think even tonight's honorees would tell you that this critical moment in the evening is the most important part of tonight. Because this is about what we're going to do next. This is about how we got here and how we're going to create more elected officials. Because 1,000 is not enough. You've heard it throughout the night. There are now just over 1,000 out elected officials in the country. Does anybody know the number that it should be? 22,000. 22,000 out elected officials should exist right now in the United States, and yet there is just 1,000 of us. Now, I'm one of the people whose life was changed by the Victory Fund. I can look out at this room and I see donors like Mel Heifetz, like Claire and Judy, like Richard Holt that changed my life by supporting my campaign. And I look out and I see members of the Victory Fund community that I turn to every single day. People like Senator Julian Cyr and Representative Herod. People like Ruben Gonzalez and Reggie Greer. But this work is not easy, and this work is not inexpensive. And so while I have asked you before to give until it hurts, I want you to give until it starts to feel good again. I'm going to introduce a close friend of mine and somebody that has a fun factoid. Most of you don't know this, but my mom was raised in Evan Lowe's district, and my mom retired in Danica Rome's district. And with that said, let me introduce my close friend, California Assemblyman Evan Lowe.
We are here to now support the Victory Fund. And what we're doing actually tonight is, Danica, what did you say, our resident bear? Someone said, is that from Falcon Studios? Oh, okay, wrong studio? Wrong studio. All right, sorry, wrong studio. Okay, not Falcon. This is the time that we're going to call on some of our dear friends to help donate. And as a proud member from California representing Silicon Valley, I'm going to look to my fellow Californians. Do we have Tony Atkins in the house? Where is Tony Atkins? Is Tony here? Tony, for those of you who don't know Tony Atkins, we're overachieving LGBT officials. Not only is she the former Speaker of the State Assembly and now the leader in the Senate, she was also former acting governor for the state of California. So with that distinction, Madam Pro Tem, not to put you on the spot, but because I'm in the Assembly and you're in the Senate, how much do you love Victory Fund? A lot. And so how much can we count on your pledge for? $5,000. Thank you very much, Tony Atkins. $5,000. Who else do we have? No music yet. No, we're not done yet. Do we have my fellow Gaysians in the room? All 5 of us. All 5 Gaysians. Do we have Adrian Tamman here? He was elected to the Hawaii State House and is the only openly LGBT state legislator in Hawaii. Adrian, how much do you love the Victory Fund? How much is so much? $1,000. Thank you very much, Adrian. Can we see a little bit more love? I'll just continue with some easy ones from California. Is Equality California in the house? Sam, where are you? Oh, there you are. Sam, how much do you love the Victory Fund? So much. Well, how much is so much? $5,000. Thank you very much. How about to my table at 54? Is there a Brett Smiley in the house? Brett, can you please stand up? Brett, you and I shared a wonderful exchange. You served on the board of Victory Fund, and you're also a candidate for mayor in Providence. Congratulations. But because you sat next to me, I know where you are. So, Brett, how much do you love the Victory Fund?
After 12 years on the board, I love Victory Fund. I'm so proud to have their endorsement.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I love Victory Fund so much, and because you asked, I'll give $1,000.
$1,000. Thank you very much, Brett. And congratulations and thank you very much. Best of wishes on your election. Maybe just one more. I saw a dear friend who maybe I didn't get a chance to call on yet. We have with us the president of Emily's List as well. The president of Emily's List, my dear friend, LaFonza Butler. LaFonza, we thank you for your service and your allyship and a partnering organization. And not to put you on the spot, but because I am putting you on the spot because you said hi to me when we were walking the rooms here. LaFonza, how much do you and Emily's List care about our collective movement?
Myself and my partner care very deeply about the Victory Fund and this movement, and we're going to be donating $1,000 tonight.
Thank you very much, LaFonza.
Thank you.
Now, Brian, are you in the house? Can I turn this over to Brian? Brian, where are you? Are you still here, Brian? In the meantime, do we have any other hands of individuals that might be willing to donate to help support the Victory Fund? The sooner that we contribute, the sooner we can get to the bar. So anyone else here? We have wonderful dedicated volunteers walking around. And Brian, are you still here? Because I want to put you on the spot too. Brian Sims, are you still here? Did you just leave? Where did you go? You're supposed to be up here. You're the pretty face. Come on, man. Any other contributions? Well, we will spend some time to ensure that you continue to fill out the forms. So we have some dedicated volunteers to continually help you fill out these forms. We have been gone and seen each other in person for some time. So thank you very much for your strong support of the Victory Fund. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Victory Campaign Board co-chairs Sue Burnside and Samuel Garrett Pate.
Okay. I know it's been a long night, right? And it's nice that we're all back together, but it has been a long night, so we'll be brief.
Tell him to be quiet.
So if you'll give me 3 seconds of your attention, I'd appreciate it. My name is Sue Burnside. We're here to celebrate 30 years of building LGBTQ equality and political power. I helped create the Victory Campaign Board 15 years ago with some people in the room, and I'm really proud and honored to serve as the co-chair of the Victory Campaign Board. I'd like to introduce my friend and my co-chair, Sam.
Thank you, Sue. My name's Sam Garrett Pate. I'm the other co-chair of the Victory Campaign Board. We are a group of 150 incredible LGBTQ leaders. Are you drinking my drink? And allies all across the country committed to ensuring LGBTQ candidates can win anywhere. The Victory Campaign Board is the body that recruits and endorses LGBTQ candidates running up and down the ballot, from Mosquito Control Board, as Marty said earlier, to city councils, to President of the United States. We wanted to give a shout out to our former Victory Campaign Board member and City Council Spotlight candidate who just won their runoff this past Tuesday. Liliana Bakhtiari, are you here? Where are you? There we go. Liliana, please stand up. We love you. Liliana is a former member of the Victory Campaign Board and won their seat for the Atlanta City Council. They are now the first out LGBTQ Muslim elected official in Georgia, the only non-binary person sitting on any major U.S. city council in the United States. Congratulations, Liliana, and if you want to be like Liliana, just keep listening.
Congrats, Ileana. Ileana, it was great to see you tonight, and I'm just so honored to be part of your victory, and thank you for being here tonight. The Victory Campaign Board is a passionate, dedicated, all-volunteer board that reviews hundreds of applications every cycle, and we determine that candidates like Liliana are viable and qualified for endorsement. We've helped raise thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars for our candidates to activate our donor network and holding events to provide resources that can make or break a campaign, literally elect someone or not elect someone. Our work is rooted in the same theory of change. Our work is rooted in the same theory of change that Victory pioneered 30 years ago. And as Anise Parker said today, earlier, the belief that our community members can contribute to LGBTQ candidates regardless of their hometown or their state is important, because every single LGBTQ person elected to office helps us win and be representative no matter what office they serve in.
Thanks to the hard work of our colleagues, the Victory Campaign Board is in its best position ever. But we are not stopping there. And I can be very loud, so just keep having your conversations and I will talk over you. Every member we add to the Victory Campaign Board allows us to endorse and support even more LGBTQ candidates. So we want to ask you, yes, you specifically, Steve Hansen, to join the Victory Campaign Board. It is an inspiring, diverse network of leaders, and as anyone who has ever sought Victory Fund's endorsement can tell you, it is a powerful one too.
Can our current Victory Campaign Board members please stand up? I'm not.
VCB members.
VCB board members.
Stand up, and
Please
everyone
stand
else, please sit.
You guys, this is an incredible group of people that are passionately dedicated to finding and elected LGBTQ candidates. If you're interested in joining our board and taking a step further to elect gay and lesbian and LGBTQ people to office, then please join our board. You can talk to anyone that you saw standing, Samurai, or you can fill out this form that's on your table. And another reminder, you could give more money and fill out the form for the VCB. All right, VCB board members, take your seat. Thanks for the amazing work you do. I really appreciate you.
And now, Sue and I have the pleasure of introducing someone who the Victory Campaign Board decided to endorse very early on in his campaign. Having worked in the Hudson Valley of New York myself, we knew it would be a tough race, but we endorsed him because it was clear that he had the strategy and the drive to win. Now, Mondaire Jones joins us tonight as a member of Congress representing New York's 17th Congressional District. Mondaire made history in November 2020 when he became one of the first 2 black out LGBTQ members of Congress. Yes, that deserves a standing ovation. Please stand up. No music yet. Woo, almost there. Just before the House passed the Equality Act, Representative Jones said this from the floor. To grow up poor, black, and gay is to not see yourself anywhere. It is also to feel completely unseen, as so many people around you invalidate your very existence. Today, we send a powerful message to millions of LGBTQ people all around this country and around the world, that they are seen, that they are valued, that they are worthy of protection. Please join us in giving a warm welcome to United States Representative Mondaire Jones.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening. What a tremendous night this has been, celebrating Victory Fund and the incredible work that this organization does every single day. As the night comes to a close, I'm honored to be with all of you because, as we have heard repeatedly tonight, there is so much to celebrate. During the last election cycle, even as Victory navigated overlapping, unprecedented crises that have challenged us all, this organization never lost sight of its critical purpose to elect leaders who not only reflect our diverse, intersectional community, but who represent us well in the halls of power. For me, as for so many of you, these victories are profoundly personal. Many of you know that, along with Richie Torres, I am the first openly gay black person ever to serve in the United States Congress. I am proud of this, obviously, but it's also a shame that it took 244 years for this to happen. The truth is, it wasn't all that long ago that I questioned whether someone like me could win a congressional seat in my suburban district. And for most of my life, I never imagined an openly gay black person could run for Congress, let alone win a congressional seat anywhere in the United States. As you just heard, and as I said on the floor of the House during debate on the Equality Act, to grow up poor, black, and gay is to not see yourself anywhere. It is instead to feel completely unseen. Until recently. For most of my life, I may not have seen myself, but Victory Fund saw me. My God, Victory Fund saw me. Victory saw me when they allowed me to attend, on short notice, a training in April of 2019 sponsored by the Victory Institute on how to run as an openly gay candidate. And in the fall of 2019, when Washington's political establishment and my local political establishment didn't think I had a chance in hell of winning my seat, it was Victory Fund that became the first national organization to endorse my campaign. 8 months before my primary. Victory saw me. Victory saw me in my crowded Democratic primary and helped me prevail over a billionaire, 2 state legislators, a senior Defense Department official, and so on and so forth. Victory saw me when a prominent elected official in my district withdrew his endorsement when he learned I was running as an openly gay candidate. Imagine that. And Victory saw me and had my back, even when my local chapter of the Stonewall Democrats would not endorse me. Victory saw me, and I see Victory. This organization will always have a special place in my heart. now that I'm in Congress, the visibility and the responsibility of substantive representation that I bring to this work is not lost on me. And I first realized I had become the role model I didn't have growing up when I started getting messages from queer kids of color all over the country and the world saying that I was helping them to accept who they are, to live authentic lives, and in several instances, aspire to public office. And we have never more urgently needed people in office for whom policy is personal. We get better policy outcomes that way. Is it any wonder that my friend and mentor, David Cicilline, is the author of the Equality Act? Long overdue legislation to outlaw discrimination against LGBTQ plus people, which we passed in the House, where we do the lion's share of the work of saving our democracy and building a more perfect union. And now we need to do everything we can to get it through the Senate and on to President Biden's desk. And while the Equality Act is not a panacea for the discrimination and the inequities that our community faces, especially if you're a queer person of color or a trans woman, it would represent one of the single most important steps forward for LGBTQ plus people in our nation's history. As the far right cements a tighter grip on our country from state-level minority rule to domination of the Supreme Court, protecting and expanding our representation matters even more. Not only can LGBTQ plus individuals still be evicted from their homes just because of who they are or who they love, not only are far too many LGBTQ plus couples denied the opportunity to adopt children or forced to overcome unjust barriers just to do so, not only are trans people, and as you heard, black trans women in particular, murdered at unacceptable rates just for living as their authentic selves, but even the victories of the last few decades are in jeopardy. We cannot assume that our progress as a community will be linear. We cannot take our gains for granted. The Supreme Court's dismantling of the Voting Rights Act and its undermining of reproductive rights are proof of that. I raise these hard truths not because I'm a pessimist. I raise them because I believe in the enduring power and importance of our mission, because like all of you, I understand just how much is at stake. And I care so deeply about making sure we do everything in our power to ensure every person and family can thrive as their authentic selves. I know that these fights are not easy, but fights worth winning rarely are. And in those moments when I find myself discouraged or wanting to give up, I think of the world that is possible. I think of a world in which no one has to question whether it's safe to show up in the world as they are. A world in which every family is judged by the love it shows and not how it identifies. A world in which a kid like me, growing up closeted, can have the confidence that he or she or they can be and achieve anything they put their mind to. This is the world that I want. This is the world that I dream about. And I have no doubt that together we can make it a reality if we continue to fight for it. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Congressmember Mondaire Jones. Give it up for him one more time. We are so proud to have you in Congress. Now, I know it's been a long night, so we're going to wrap up, donate, go get full tilt boogie, have fun, be safe, and vote for LGBTQ people into office. Good night.